If, throughout this video, you happen to notice any sort of mispronunciation, I'd like you to know that I am aware, and that I am ashamed. The primary purpose of fiction is to allow people to escape their normal lives, and live vicariously through a story's characters. One of the strangest, yet most popular niches in the world of fiction is one where living vicariously through a character is far less appealing than in, say, fantasy. This niche is referred to as horror, a genre concerned with instilling a feeling of fear, shock, or disgust within its audience. Among the genre's influencers stand giants like Stephen King, Bram Stoker, or Ray Bradbury. However, the people oft forgotten are the true pioneers. You might think of Edgar Allan Poe, the original Goth, or the inventor of so-called weird fiction, H.P. Lovecraft. Howard Phillips Lovecraft was born in the year 1890 AD in the rural New England town of Providence, Rhode Island. Howard's early life was filled with tragedy, starting when his father developed a debilitating mental illness as a side effect of his untreated syphilis. This happened not long after Howard turned 3, and his father died just before his 8th birthday. Lovecraft was always a sickly child, and thus he spent much of his childhood at home, studying the things he was passionate about. The vast majority of his time, however, was dedicated to the pursuit of astronomy and the disquieting works of Gothic horror innovator Edgar Allan Poe. In his teenage years, Lovecraft attended Hope High School, but he suffered a nervous breakdown before he could earn his diploma. After spending a number of years living the lifestyle of a recluse, Lovecraft joined the United Amateur Press Association in 1914 at the age of 24. A year later, he founded a magazine of his own, The Conservative, for which he wrote a number of essays and articles. While Lovecraft had been dabbling in fiction since a young age, it wasn't until 1917 that he dedicated himself to it as a career. His first taste of literary success came in 1923 when the magazine Weird Tales bought a portion of his early works. It was shortly after that when Lovecraft married Sonia Green, and stayed with her for 2 years. Returning to Rhode Island, he began work on his most famous and influential stories. To fully understand Lovecraftian fiction, you need to understand Lovecraft himself, where his fears came from. Among Lovecraft's most famous abominations is the abhorrent Cthulhu, who aptly sums up all of the things Lovecraft feared most. In many of his personal writings, Lovecraft expressed his irrational fear of the ocean and of aquatic animals, hence why many of the Cthulhu mythos creatures live underwater or are fish-like in appearance. Another common motif among Lovecraft's works is creatures from other worlds, whether it be far planets or other dimensions. Many of the threats are alien in nature. Unlike most other horror, however, Lovecraft's works conveyed a particular message and a universal theme, because above all else Lovecraft was obsessed with human weakness. Some theorize that this fixation was due to his father's mental illness and his own sickliness as a child. With that, we can begin venturing into the weird world of Lovecraft's mythos. Starting with Lovecraft's first breakout hit, The Call of Cthulhu. Our story centers around Francis Wayland Thurston, who discovers a lengthy series of notes and studies written by his late uncle, investigating various strange phenomena orbiting an elusive cult. Said cult, known as the Cult of Cthulhu, seemed to lack worldly influence, but held a sinister secret. Among the notes was a bas-relief depicting a creature that resembled an octopus, dragon, and human caricature simultaneously. The artist who designed the sculpture had been tormented by dreams of a cyclopean city hidden beneath the sea. The notes proceed to detail an archaeological conference in New Orleans during which a similar, but older bas-relief. This led to a local police officer, named John Raymond Legraf, recounting his experience the previous year investigating an enigmatic ritual in the bayou. The story ends when Thurston reads the memoirs of an Australian sailor who encountered a strange creature he called Cthulhu. This format of storytelling dominated much of Lovecraft's early work, with a bystander character being introduced to a world of horrors through some kind of book, letter, or journal. Other stories that followed this format include The Whisperer in Darkness, The Strange Case of Charles Dexter Ward, At the Mountains of Madness, etc. Another one of Lovecraft's strangest creatures is the dreaded Azathoth, the blind, stupid god. Outside the ordered universe is that amorphous blight of nethermost confusion which blasphemes and bubbles at the center of all infinity, the boundless daemon Sultan Azathoth, whose name no lips dare speak aloud, and who gnaws hungrily in inconceivable, unlighted chambers beyond time and space amidst the muffled, maddening beating of vile drums and the thin monotonous whine of accursed flutes. The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. Or in The Haunter of the Dark, which tells of the ancient legends of ultimate chaos, at whose center sprawls the blind idiot god Azathoth, lord of all things, encircled by his flopping horde of mindless and amorphous dancers, and lulled by the thin monotonous piping of a demonic flute held in nameless paws. Azathoth's depiction within the mythos is indicative of Lovecraft's atheistic and anti-theistic view on religion. Particularly in his later years, Lovecraft was rather outspoken about his belief that the act of accepting and accommodating religion was stunting society's growth. If religion were true, its followers would not try to bludgeon their young into an artificial conformity, but would merely insist on their unbending quest for truth, irrespective of artificial backgrounds or practical consequences. That's all I have for now. Exploring the life and works of people like Lovecraft takes more effort than one would think. This may eventually be continued in a part 2. Stay tuned.